Thank you.
You need it?
Yeah. I'm gonna just slide it back a little bit. I developed an interest in the life of Mr. A.G. Gaston after learning that he was a successful entrepreneur born and raised in my home state of Alabama. Gaston once said that money is useless unless it contributes something to the community, unless it builds a bridge to a better life. Any man can make money, but it takes a special type of man to use it responsibly. Now, while it's true that any man can make money, few can make the amount that Gaston made in his lifetime. In fact, the only thing more impressive than the magnitude of Gaston's self-made worth is how he used it to shape his community. However, despite his many accomplishments, Gaston's name is largely unknown to the general public. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, I invite you to walk with me as I shed light on the life of one of my personal heroes, Mr. A.G. Gaston. A.G. Gaston was born in Demopolis, Alabama on July 4th, 1892. Like most blacks from that era, he was born into poverty and grew up in a world tolerant of racial injustices. But rather than buckling to his surroundings, Gaston used them to further his dream of becoming a successful businessman. You see, in business, Gaston followed a simple motto: find a need and fill it. Now, because many businesses refused to serve blacks back then, Gaston realized there are a lot of unmet needs in his very own community. So with that in mind, he started his career as an entrepreneur in the early 1920s by selling boxed lunches to his co-workers at a Birmingham-based coal and iron company. Gaston would eventually expand his on-the-job enterprise by loaning money to his co-workers at a 25% interest rate. Now, Gaston made good money serving his co-workers at the coal mine, but he really hit it big in 1923 when he used his coal mine profits to start his very own insurance company. Again, Gaston realized that most of the people in his community couldn't afford a decent burial at death. So he started selling burial insurance. Gaston's insurance company was extremely successful, and from there he went on to establish a number of businesses in the Birmingham community, including a hotel, construction company, and a bank. Because of Gaston's business success, many people said he had a golden touch. I mean, everything he created made money. In fact, by the 1960s, he was widely considered to be the richest black man in America. But Gaston was much more than just a businessman. He was also a civil rights activist. And coincidentally, his home base of Birmingham, Alabama, served as the epicenter of the civil rights movement. Now, while Gaston wasn't a frontline soldier in the movement, he used his resources to advance his goals in other ways. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. and his allies would often use Gaston's Birmingham hotel to plan their activities. And when Birmingham's notorious Commissioner of Public Safety, Eugene Bull Connor, had King arrested in 1963, it was Gaston who bailed him out using $160,000 of his own money. Gaston also forced change by applying a concept that he called green power. For instance, Gaston once convinced a bank to remove its whites-only signs from the water fountains by threatening to pull his money from the bank. In addition to lending his support to the civil rights movement, Gaston also helped the members of his community by providing them with opportunities to empower themselves. For example, in 1923, Gaston created the Booker T. Washington Business College. He created the college to provide opportunities to blacks to learn fundamental business skills such as accounting and typing. And when students graduated from the college, Gaston would hire them to work at one of his businesses. In fact, Gaston hired so many of the school's graduates that for a number of years, he was the largest employer of blacks in the state of Alabama. And when Arthurine Lucy registered as the first black student at the University of Alabama in 1956, not only did Gaston provide her with financial aid, He actually drove her to the school's Tuscaloosa campus in his own car. But out of all the things that Gaston did for his community, he was probably most proud of the A.G. Gaston Boys and Girls Club that he established in Birmingham, Alabama in 1966. Gaston created the club to provide kids with a safe and nurturing environment to spend time after school and during the summer. Within months of the club's opening, the areas surrounding the club experienced a drastic decrease in criminal activity. More than 40 years later, the club continues to serve the community by helping underprivileged youth. In his lifetime, A.G. Gaston accomplished many things that were thought to be impossible. He literally went from rags to riches in a time where blacks had no rights. And when he died at the age of 103 in 1996, Gaston had an estimated net worth of $130 million. But more important than the money is the way he used it to shape his community. He provided jobs to the jobless, educated the uneducated, and inspired countless others to better their lives. In short, Gaston created a bridge to a better life that was crossed by many. And that's the reason why he was a great man. Madam Toastmaster.